Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Steakhouse. Dan Vaughan with you. Another big show for you, locked and loaded, ready to go. Let's cue the open. Here we go in 3, 2, 1. The Steakhouse is on the air. Here we go. Well, glad you're along. Sorry about that. I hope the audio is working for me. This is the fun part about using the new toys is that you got to make sure the audio is rock and rolling. So if you're seeing me, that's good. If you're hearing me, that's good. Let me know. Glad you're along. A happy Wednesday. And not a lot today really for you. We're kind of, to a degree, sort of to a degree, we are kind of in our dog days. I mean, I don't want to we're not playing, obviously. The T-Bones aren't playing, but it is have that dog day feel. You know how you are when the season hits that first week of August and it's a little warm out and you're kind of fighting through the whole the grind. And as fans, we get that way. I know as a broadcaster, I get that way. And we're kind of in the same place. We're kind of that although we have some exciting stuff coming up for you next week, working on that tomorrow for next week's show. We don't rest here at the Steakhouse. My name's Dan Vaughan. Glad you're along. Glad you're here on this Happy Wednesday. It's what we do every Wednesday at noon right here on Facebook Live. Is glad you're along as we talk T-Bones baseball, American Association baseball, very heavy American Association baseball because the T-Bones aren't playing, as you guys very well know. If you don't know that, if you've joined us for the first time, the Kansas City T-Bones, part of the 6 teams who aren't playing in the American Association this season due to the whole pandemic. But 6 teams are playing, and there are some T-Bones connections making news. We're going to get to all that, break that down. It's been a pretty good, busy week. We'll look at a quick look at the standings, quick look at some of the exciting numbers, but really from a T-Bones perspective, I know there's a lot of, all the guys who are broadcasting now, the 6 that are playing, you can get plenty of information from them about the overall, the Winnipegs, the St. Pauls, all that. You can get all that information. But here we're more T-Bone centric, so I can give you a little bit of some tidbits with that as well. My question for you off the top of the show, and I'd love to have you guys let me know, is Brian, good to see you out there, is tell me who's done a better job in this whole thing? Who's done a better job in managing this baseball situation? The MLB or the American Association? And I often think, I think it's pretty easy answer there, to be honest with you. But let you guys kind of give me what you think, okay? I've got the chat open as well. The chat will not appear on the screen here on OBS today, but I can see what you guys have to say and able to look right here and check it out. So glad you're along. Brian, good to see you. Where do we start today? Well, let's start with the Wednesday's Wisdom portion of the show. It's been mostly historical, and it's going to be that way again. I began to think about this. Here's one right here. This is an official American Association Miles Wolff ball right here. It's one. Here's a Brett Brothers ball for the Australian Baseball League, official baseball of the Australian Baseball League. Got the ABO logo there, the Brett Brothers there. What else I got to find here? Here's a collegiate baseball. Here's one right here. This is from the ACC Atlantic Coast Conference. This one is a Rawlings ball, and it's part of the Irish Classic, the Notre Dame program. Notre Dame plays in the ACC, but the NCAA on the back of it there, you see that, ACC, and the Rawlings logo there. Let's see what I got here. Oh, this is a fun one here. This is actually wooden, but it's an inaugural season for the Diamondbacks. See that? Yeah, the 98 Diamondback inaugural season. MLB limited edition 777 of 1998. How about that? Okay, so the point is we're wondering what we're doing. Oh, here's one more. One more I'll get to you. This one is from Cooperstown, Hall of Fame ball from the Baseball Hall of Fame. Actually, this is kind of be fun to show this to you on the actually, I'm going to go to screen 2 here and show you guys this on the screen. Get a little better on camera 2 here. So if you'll, I'm going to hold this up for you guys. See a little bit better. This is the association ball. Turn it upside. There we go. A little better view of that one. Here's the Brett brothers. You see that one right there? Official baseball, Australian Baseball League, the ABL. And this is my Hall of Fame one I was talking about a moment ago. There you go. There you go. Cooperstown, New York. It's commemorative ball. Oh, yeah. And this one right here, we're on the screen there. This is the one, the wooden ball. You can see it's a 777 of 1998. See it right there. Wooden baseball. Now, this one I'm kind of jokingly showing you. I got one more. What was the other one I was showing you? Oh, yeah. Here we go. This is the ACC. Rawlings, Notre Dame logo somewhere. There we go. Irish Classic, and I got a bunch of them. I got a ton of baseballs, over here for you guys. We could go through forever. I've actually got over in part of my office here. Where is it? Actually, you know what? Give me a moment. Gonna slide out a can. Well, it's too far to reach. I've got a Nolan Ryan ball, and then over the corner. Actually, I don't. Yeah, I can't shoot it for you. But I have a ball over there. I have a 2018 American Association Game 4 Championship Baseball signed by Chris Brown as well. How about that? Got that over there as well. I should have brought that. Anyway, Wednesday's Wisdom is all about baseballs. And I begin to kind of think, what the history of the actual ball is. What is this history? What is this beat up history of this baseball? What is it? Because now it's all pretty standard. My wife and I actually were talking about this the other day. She was asking me if the size of baseballs had changed. And I said, well, yeah, a little bit over the years. We're talking about Japan being a little bit of a bigger ball and things of that nature. But by and large, the baseball pretty much worldwide is pretty similar. It's similarly made. Even gone as far as this day and age, have the same mud that's used to rub the balls down by the umpires. That's all part of it. But the first baseball was designed using a coarse string-wrapped rubber. Now, this is not a string-wrapped rubber. We're going to talk about the evolution of the baseball as we go forward next week. But it had a horse hide cover and a variation of size, and it was anywhere from a golf ball size, which I shanked a few of those this weekend, to the size of a softball. So you had golf ball to softball size baseballs back when baseball first started being played organized baseball, the 1860s, when, of course, 1876 would have been when they really had the first organized baseball clubs. But early baseball, pre-Civil War, the ball most of the time was any variation of size from golf ball to softball. And again, it was made with anywhere between 3 and 6 ounces. The weight sort of varied. So you could actually be playing in a game, say, I don't know, in New York City, and the baseball might be like a softball size. You may go down the road to, say, I don't know, Trenton, New Jersey, that might be the size of a golf ball. Maybe down in South Carolina, in Texas, different sizes, different designs, and mostly because back in those days, the pitchers were in charge of putting together the actual baseball. So your ace, back in those days, your pitching staff basically consisted of maybe just 2 or 3 guys at the most. You had other guys who could pitch, but it really didn't specialize bullpens until the middle of the last century when you started getting relievers and starters and things like that. Now we've got situational guys, only face 3 batters or 1 batter, all that. But back in the day, your handful of pitchers, presumably your ace, the guy who go out there and get your Cy Young types, I would suppose, would go out. They'd actually made the baseball. So it would be to their advantage. So let's say you're a guy who maybe had more control with a small ball. You made a smaller ball. You liked a bigger ball, got more movement, you used a bigger ball. So hitters never knew from game to game what they're going to be facing because A, the pitcher designed the baseball, and B, the size could vary. And that went on pretty much for the early days of baseball. That's how it was when baseball really first came into being until where we are, until the turn of the late 1800s. 1876, baseball originally, these things right here were filled with feathers. How about that? It gave them a softer, floatier feel. It was filled with, actually, it was not so much filled with feathers. It was filled with a lighter substance. It made it feel like it was filled with feathers, causing the ball to be light. The ball was dull. It was lifeless. This thing's got a little high. You catch a baseball, you toss it up and down. It's got a little something to it, right? I mean, you feel that. You feel that give to it. But if you throw up a ping pong ball, it doesn't have the same give to it, right? It's real soft, lands soft, and it might even just bounce out of your hand. It's so soft. And that's what baseballs were like early on. They were soft, various sizes, and they basically played like they were filled with feathers or air. In 1872, the official baseball size parameters were changed from whatever you wanted to do, from that original anywhere between 3 and 6 inches to 5 to 5.27 ounces was the actual weight. So 5 to 5.25, and then the actual size, circumference-wise, 9 to 9.25. That's what became in 1876. And although baseball's changed the weight and standard over time, it remained lifeless. And really, those balls, and that's why if you see a guy hitting a lot of home runs, 1880, 1890, he had a little pop in his bat. He had a little stick, because to hit that ball, it's like, I talk about the broadcast. Sometimes I say it sounds like a wet, rolled up Wall Street Journal. Well, that's exactly what it'd be like hitting a foomp. You hear those sounds of a foomp, a wet ball, a wet rag. That's what it really, if you had some pop back in the 1800s, you had a little something, you had a little strength, because those baseballs just didn't travel. In 1876, the National League was created. Standard rules, regulations, all put in place for baseball. A.G. Spalding, of course, so we just recently watched Spalding trapped on an island with Tom Cruise a couple weeks ago. But Spalding, well-known baseball pitcher, made his own baseballs. He convinced the National League to adopt his ball as the official ball of the NL and remain that way for over a century. How about that? But a National League in 1876 granted Spalding Sports exclusive rights to produce the baseballs. In 1877, Reach Sports Goods was founded and produced baseballs used by the Western League, which would soon become the modern American League. And of course, in 1910, George Reach, owner of the Reach Sporting Goods, experimented with a cork center baseball. And that's where we'll stop the story. So baseball evolution to where we get right now, the cork center baseball, it wasn't always that way. The first 75, 80 years of baseball, it was a lifeless, almost like pillow-like baseball made of whatever size you wanted, whatever style you wanted. It creates a really unique advantage, doesn't it? Thinking about that. That's today's Wednesday's Wisdom. David Glad Geelong, good to see Mom out there as well. But again, the evolution of baseball and the original baseball being made by the pitchers, from golf ball size to softball size, whatever floated their boat, they did it back in the day. That's Wednesday's Wisdom here on the Steakhouse. Glad you're along. Dan Vaughan with you on a Wednesday. T-Bones not playing, but the association is busy. I had not pulled the standings up until just a few moments ago, and I will pull those up for you right now. There's actually, I know what, we got a message here too. I'm not sure what that is. Somebody else, not for the show. Sorry about that, guys. But let's pull standings up real quick and tell you what's going on standings-wise in the association, where things stand. First off, I got to tell you, this whole association is so much fun to watch. it's super duper teams. We've talked about them. We're talking more about that in a moment. I'm having a blast watching. I don't know if you guys have as much fun as I am, but Winnipeg with an 18-11 mark, they're a game clear of Sioux Falls. Those two teams have made a move or two here and there lately. The last week, we're going to talk about that in a moment. But they appear to the chalk. I mean, those two teams appear to be item A and item B, and then you've got the Dogs of Chicago who have slowly but surely. Remember 2 weeks ago, 2 shows ago, they were in the cellar. They had a big stretch against Milwaukee, who at the time was in the top spot, and Chicago just kept on plugging along. 7 of their last 10, they're knocking on the door. They're in third position at 13-13. Milwaukee, who was in first 2 weeks ago, 4 back. They're 13-14. St. Paul, 13-15, 4.5 back. But the Saints a win last night, and they're back home. More on that in a moment. And then Fargo, 10-19. Fargo, 8 back right now. They're 7 off the pace. Dog days not kind of them. There's about 3 weeks until September for them. This is what we talked about. We talked about how you could run away with the division early in a short season like this. You could also go through 2 or 3 weeks of scuffling and be out of the race. That looks what's happening to poor Fargo. Fargo just can't seem to get rolling right now. But again, still a lot of time left. But 8 games back, 10-19 right now at the 29-game mark. All righty. So again, mentioned that the last night that St. Paul won. We're gonna get to that in a moment. I want to get the scores for if I can find that for you. First off, had all this pulled up for you, but where did I go? Here we go. Why are the scores not pulling up? Here we go. Had the scores pulling. Here we go. Last night, quickly, and again, you guys can check this all out, but just to give you an idea what happened last night, St. Paul 3-2 winners at home against Fargo. Sioux Falls at Milwaukee 3-1 winner, and then Chicago or Winnipeg 2-1. That's a big series. Chicago on the road there, although Winnie's playing in Fargo, that's the one to watch for the rest of the week. They got tonight and they got tomorrow. That's a huge stretch, and Winnipeg could definitely put the hand out, get a little distance, or Chicago could overtake the top spot, bottom line. So huge matchup right there in this 6-team race. So a key stretch right now for those Chicago Dogs and Winnipeg Goldeyes playing right now currently and the American Association, and that's the one that's the one I watched last night. Besides the St. Paul Saints game, I should say I watched that one too, their return home. But just seeing that, definitely the possibilities and just the general excitement of the league. That one right now has got me pretty fired up. Okay. Quickly check your leaderboard right now. LA Lago leads the league at 409 with Sioux Falls. More on him and his mates in a moment when we get to some more talk. Also, as we got Victor Roach down with 11 home runs. He leads Darnell Sweeney, who was the player of the month. We're going to talk about that in a moment with Winnipeg. But Roach with 11 long balls with Chicago. Kyle Martin for the Winnipeg, he's a pretty good-looking little player. And I didn't realize this until watching some of their highlights back this week. Every time I turned on a highlight reel of Winnipeg, Martin was doing something. RBI single, home run, whatever, you name it. Kyle Martin, a good-looking ball player, 28 driven in, and for the league lead right now currently. Pitching-wise, David Holmberg, who was named the pitcher of the month for August, is got the 4 wins. Also, with the second lowest ERA at 2.57. Kevin Hilton of Winnipeg, a 1.40. He is second. Frank Duncan, T-Bones signee at 2.78, former Jayhawk, third in the league right now as far as earned run average. And then strikeout, Brandon Hagens of Fargo, 40, leads the league in strikeouts currently, and just kind of scanning things. Also, 4 wins for Duncan. That ties the league mark as well with Holmberg for the American Association. So let's jump into the player of the week. How about that? Big, and I mention this all the time. Guys who can play on my team any day. The old, it's the one I joke about, but it's Dan Vaughn's play on my team any day kind of deal. And there's a handful of them. There's the Zach Narriers, there's the Nate Sampsons, the Michael Langs, those kind of guys. And of course, LA Lagos, and they're all out there, right? I've always talked about Tommy Collier, and there's a long list of those guys that I love to watch play ball. And This guy, who's a player of the week, John Nestor, the Winnipeg Goldeyes, he with the long hair. Now, it's kind of funny to see him now with a long do. He's got the long locks working. He was a one-man wrecking crew this week. He's been doing it all for Winnipeg. I mentioned Martin, but you pair Martin with John Nestor being named Player of the Week. And I mean, this is a guy it's doing it all. RBI singles, long balls. The guy has just been just all over the place. He's got such back control. He's such a disciplined hitter. And you realize when you watch a guy like Zach Narrier and him together in the same lineup card, just how dangerous that Cleveland club would have been. It's like putting together the T-Bones roster when you put some of the pieces together with a puzzle with Darnell Sweeney. But number 17 there, long ball in Chicago. He had a series in Chicago last week where he homered in every ball game, 4 straight ball games, 3 ball games there at Impact Field, 4 overall, 4 consecutive ball games, and named the player of the week as he homered in 3 straight. I'm sorry, I said 4 straight, 3 straight from the 28th to the 30th. Also made an emergency relief appearance in Chicago last Thursday for Winnipeg. Got a strikeout. Over the weekend, he caught 26 innings of baseball in 28 hours, including a doubleheader. Leading the Goldeyes pitchers in both ends with Saturday doubleheader, again during Sunday's 12-inning ball game as well. Hitting .306 for the season, 5 long, 20 driven in, tied for 8th in the association. Clemson University alum, 18 ball games behind the plate. And his work behind the plate, his work at the plate, necessitating a move for Winnipeg. Winnipeg traded former T-Bone and current T-Bone signee, Roy Morales. They had such depth at catcher, and Roy was traded for a player to be named later. A very smart move, I think, for Winnipeg to have sent an all-star to Sioux Falls. Of course, that makes Sioux Falls that much deeper, but also going to help Winnipeg clear up some more. Just help Winnipeg, help Roy out, getting Roy more bats and more chances to catch. Roy's been mostly DH in there, now gets a chance to catch. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But good to see Joel out there, Brother Gandy as well. Everybody out there. Okay, anyway, good stuff right there from, again, from John Nestor. Where was I? Okay, here we go. Yes, of course, Nestor, Cleveland Railroader, and my boys Brad and Denning, pretty fired up about him. Okay, Matt Tomshaw, Point Streak Player of the Week as well, Pitcher of the Week as well for the association. 1 and 2 had a big week in the association. Tomshaw, don't know a lot about him. A guy that for the Fargo Moorhead Redhawks in a down season for them has been pretty solid. 7 innings, gave up only 4 hits and a win against Milwaukee last Saturday. Struck out 5, walked 4. Got his first win of the year in 5 starts. League's 30 strikeouts. He's 5th right now in the league. Former Twins farmhand, 2011 draft for the Twins. Played 9 seasons with the Twins, Marlins, and White Sox, most recently in Double-A Birmingham and Triple-A Charlotte with Chicago last week as he takes care of Jose Sermo on a strikeout right there. Here's Adam Brett Walker right there as well, taking care of him in a strikeout. And that is Matt Tomshaw is the American Association Pitcher of the Week for this last week. But Tomshaw, I didn't know a lot about him, but a guy from Kingston, New York, played at Jacksonville University, which is the same collegiate stop for former T-Bone Adam Brett Walker, who plays for the Milwaukee Milkmen. So just a little interesting note right there, but good to see a guy, even though team's scuffling, get a W right there. And Matt Tomshaw is the Player of the Week. Mentioned Roy Morales. Morales in the trade this week as Roy, I'm happy for Roy. I messaged Roy last night. He had his first game last night with Sioux Falls, and had a base hit. Roy getting a chance to catch more. He and David Coulter will rotate behind the dish there for Sioux Falls, but getting a lot more time behind the dish. Also, offensive weapon, and I think he just completes the roster for the Sioux Falls Canaries. Just that much better of a lineup card, and you put a guy like Roy in there. Morales, of course, T-Bones. I want to say he was going to be your guy this year. He was going to catch pretty much every day. I mean, the T-Bones had made the move to sign a young backup. Roy was going to be the everyday guy this year, and Morales basically. The good news for him is he's got more opportunities to catch. That's the good thing. I mean, that's the best news right there is to see that he is going to get a chance to catch every day and be a part of things for those Sioux Falls fans. By the way, Sioux Falls had a really cool graphic. Let's see if I can find that for you. Don't know what I did with it, but I had it earlier. But anyway, it was somewhere along here. Let's see. Oh, here we go. There we go. There's the cool graphic. There's Roy's infectious smile. I mean, I love this. And again, I messaged him last night. He was very thankful for the well wishes and called you friend. I mean, he's just such a great guy to see. Roy Morales, part of the Sioux Falls Canaries, and good luck going forward. He goes from one contender to the other. I mean, he didn't go from the top to the bottom. It's a guy that's there to has a chance to roll right along and win it for the Sioux Falls Canaries. Congratulations to Roy Morales, the trade from the Winnipeg Gold Eyes. Dan Vaughan with you here on the Steakhouse. Glad you are along talking a little American Association ball here on this segment, which joins me to the player and pitcher of the month. Pitcher of the month, we mentioned a moment ago that Milwaukee's lefty David Holmberg was the Rawlings pitcher of the month of July. 5 starts for the Milkmen in July. Posted a 3-1 record, 2.49, 29 2/3 innings, 11 runs, 8 earned, 25 hits, struck out 30, walking 8 for Milwaukee this year. But the big news is, how about the player of the month? And that is one and only Darnell Sweeney. How about this guy? Sweeney was selected in this personal draft, of course, for the T-Bones. Former Dodgers farmhand out of Central Florida. Made the big leagues in 2015 with the Phillies and 18 with the Blue Jays. Sweeney, the 2019 season was with the T-Bones before his contract was purchased to the Pirates organization. Sweeney so far, 25 games this year, 330, 11 doubles, 7 homers, 22 driven in, 23 runs scored, 6 stolen bases. He's having a MVP-like season right now. 18. Pull the audio down too. Sorry about that, guys. There we go. Sorry about that. Sweeney having a MVP type season so far. I don't know why this thing is slowly getting to the highlights, but I see Darnell Sweeney right there with the Winnipeg Gold Eyes. But Sweeney is the player of the month for July. Rawlings player of the month, and that comes with where's my here we go. Got Rawlings right here. You get the Rawlings. We don't get a ball from Rawlings. You get a Rawlings glove. And was it 2 years ago that Tommy Collier got 2 gloves from Rawlings? I believe that's right. The 2018 season, he was named the pitcher of the month twice. Was that for June and July or July and August? I forget. I think it was July and August. Or June and August. I got to look that up. But yeah, Tommy Collier getting it twice. But congratulations, Darnell Sweeney, former T-Bone. He is your headliner this week. Jordan George went deep, had a very good week. But another thing I want to point you to, I didn't really know, I shouldn't say didn't know this. I did know this, but I'd kind of slept on this just a little bit on some of the for example, some of the random things. I mean, I've been really watching Frank Duncan quite a bit, and obviously Darnell Sweeney. Look at those guys, just kind of the guys that have been really not, and watching Roy, seeing those guys that are playing with the teams that are contending, and I kind of slept under the radar just a little bit at some of the things. I get what's the word for it that. I haven't paid attention, I guess, enough. I haven't been paying attention to some of the guys doing some things and just looking here. I want to pull up one in particular here, if I can find it for you here. Here we go. Here we go. Jamison McGraney is a guy that I'd kind of slept on. Remember we talked a lot about him when the T-Bone signed him with, big right-hander from Maryland. 6'4", 225, kind of fit that T-Bone role that Joe likes, a guy with some veteran, some higher level experience. He's got a 3.00 in 11 ball games, 7 saves. 7 saves in the association right there at the top. And I believe that actually leads the association, to be honest with you. But do I have that for you? I believe I do. But yeah, I'd kind of slept on him. But McGraney is a guy that, again, it's so maddening as a T-Bone fan, isn't it, to look at there and go, gosh, you know, Sweeney, player of the month. You got McGraney with 7 saves. Duncan doing what he does. I mean, you start, and that doesn't include the guys that you're going to count on for sure. I mean, the guys you already know, the guys you already know that were going to be, Sweeney you knew was going to be the guy, right? You knew Darnell Sweeney was going to be a league MVP type player from your short stay last year. But seeing a guy like Frank Duncan and McGraney both contribute and having successful seasons, you're like going, man, you just, woulda, coulda, shoulda, isn't it? It's one of those situations where as a T-Bone fan, you're just like going, dang it, boy. I mean, you're wishing things would have just been a little bit better for you if you didn't have this whole pandemic deal. Dan Vaughan, glad you're along as we round third, head for home. A little shorter show this week. I want to talk a little about our friends in St. Paul last night, if I can find it for you here. I'm having a hard time reading my screen. I got 2 screens working for you. And somewhere. Well, anyway, I'll pull it up for you. I have St. Paul's last night. St. Paul, congratulations to St. Paul Saints last night. The Saints returning home to St. Paul. And there's some shots of the club last night returning home. There they are, getting induced. Now, it's weird. I want to know if you noticed this too. If you've been to St. Paul, it all sounded very much like St. Paul. The announcers were the same. The video graphics were the same. Of course, courtesy of the American Association and the St. Paul Saints. But did you guys? And the rings look good. Everything looked good last night. But I want to show you when they get to the shot here in a moment. There you go. The folks there in the stands. It's so odd to look at St. Paul and see nobody in the seats. Not great. It's not their fault. It's not St. Paul's fault. It's but no fault of their own. The St. Paul Saints, also good to see them honor George Floyd, which I thought was a really cool honor. And they also had the ceremonial first pitch. And by now, a normal St. Paul Saints opening day in May, you're going to have a sold-out crowd. And it's just so bizarre to see that. That looks like batting practice for the Saints when we're there with the T-Bones. That's what it looks like at BP. But they had all kinds of really cool pregame festivities, some cool videos. This is one they shot there. Again, this is courtesy of the St. Paul Saints and the American Association broadcast from last night. But and this is their opening montage video, which was kind of cool. See, that's what you see. You're seeing St. Paul usually like that. It's just so bizarre, but it sounded the same. The field looks the same. The show was great. I watched most of their show. I went back and forth between this one and the Winnipeg game, watching both their shows. And it's just so bizarre to see the contestants having fun while there wasn't 8,000 folks. That's how cool that place is to see the 8,000 fans. And by the way, I love this cutout here. I want you guys to see, I don't know if you saw that there, the cutout there. The cutout actually was of, see the cutout on the left of the screen, right to the left of the picture? That is a Bill Murray cutout. I love that. Isn't that cool? Anyway, you can see Bill Murray there in the plaid jacket. That's a Bill Murray cutout with the mask on. How about that? Isn't that cool? And there's the shot right there of the crowd. There is the still very odd to see that. It's just so strange to see that whole again, it's not their fault, but it's just so weird because I've been there enough times now, even at the old ballpark, that place was packed with people, and to see that spaced out like that, it's just so, but then they hear the same voices. It was so cool to see to hear Sean Aronson and see the whole bit, the whole show going on. Really cool to see that. And I really enjoyed that part of it. I thought that was a really just awesome to see what they were doing there in St. Paul. So again, Dan Vaughan, this show's the Steakhouse. Glad you're along on your Wednesday. Not a lot this week, really. I mean, that's pretty much it. That's the nuts and bolts of it right there. Kansas City, of course, the week work still goes on at the ballpark as Nate Miller and company, the Royals, still getting their workouts in. Of course, Kansas City back home at the case. The workouts are going on in earnest. It's been really good weather-wise, except for the rain, but it's been milder around the Midwest anyway, and it's been a real benefit getting that extra work in for the Royals taxi squad, which is right there to there at the, there we go, at the ballpark as well. By the way, next week's show, we will have Miller Time on. He'll join me, and we're going to talk about the whole process of kind of going big league and what he had to go through. We're also going to talk about just the daily grind that he goes through to get the ballpark ready. As the T-Bones aren't playing, the Royals are playing, and we want to give a shout out to Miller Time and Nathan Miller, the groundskeeper of the T-Bones. And I always love it when our guys are doing great things. It's always cool to see just a lot of good vibes going from the T-Bone faithful. All right, questions, comments. I'm here for you guys. Give you guys a couple minutes to fire them away, to answer any questions and comments that you have. I'm here. I'm ready to go. Ready to hear from you. If you want to talk about the association, how you're feeling about it, who's doing a better job? Like I said earlier, who's doing a better job of managing baseball? The major leagues, the American Association. Is there much doubt? Is that a loaded question? Is there much doubt that what the association is doing is phenomenal, what they're doing? I think it's no doubt that's the case, but you guys may disagree with me. Again, questions, comments, thoughts, I'm right here for you. Give me about a minute or so. Fire away. I've got the chat up so I can see that from you guys. So you want to add to the show, I'm right here. We do this every Wednesday at noon Central Time here on Facebook Live, and we're working on repurposing it. We can also repurpose it on YouTube and be seen on YouTube Live, and we're looking forward to putting some things on Twitter down the road as well for you, some smaller videos, what have you. Always working. We're working hard here, trying to get things rolling for you guys here in T-Bone Land here at the Steakhouse with Dan Vaughan here on a Wednesday. Last call for questions and comments. I'm here for you again. I'd love to hear from you guys. What you got. Some other reminders as well. You want to follow me on social media. There it is. Dan Vaughan Jr. at Twitter, Dan Vaughan, the YouTube page, and Dan Vaughan Jr. on Instagram. Those are all three. Of course, you're watching on Facebook. You already got me there, but other places to follow me is, of course, the ball club as well. Twitter for the T-Bones and the Instagram as well. Another little project I'm working on, I think you guys will check out. The Broadcaster Can Cook. Putting some finishing touches on some things there, but it's my YouTube page. Go to the Broadcaster Can Cook. Just type it in. That'll come up, and there's recipes there. And I'm working on some tweaking the whole thing. But subscribe and get alerted when I have a new recipe from the kitchen for the broadcast moved to you. And check that out as I just unveiling. I mentioned this recipe will be up there this weekend. I got others coming. It's just a little something to keep me busy. And I actually ordered some more new toys to actually shoot the future episodes of the Broadcaster Can Cook. Yes, he can, as you can tell by the waistline. Don't forget, tomorrow, Greatest Hits time. There it is, T-Bone's Greatest Hits on MixLR around noonish, around that time. I have a little something going on early, but hopefully by noon we'll fire it off, roll through another MixLR broadcast. And, of course, you can also catch me on Talking Baseball Australia tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Central Time, 8 a.m. in Western Australia on a Friday. Love to have you join myself and my broadcast partner over in the West, Paul Morgan. Come your way tomorrow with that right there. But again, I'm glad you're along here on your Wednesday. Here we go. Do you think more current affiliated players will find their way on American Association's rosters the rest of the season? Yes. And, that's a very good thing. I meant to pull this up today. And while you asked that, David, I'm kind of curious myself, transaction-wise, and you're going to see some coming and going. I think especially toward the top, some of the teams that are jockeying for those top three spots. Just look at the transaction sheet this week. I'm looking to see the affiliated players. Let's see, I got 1, 2. Now, what you're seeing is some guys who weren't drafted. For example, like Forrest Allday, former T-Bone, was signed by Fargo over the week. But you also see Casey Huth was released. That's one reason why Rory Morales is where he's at as well. Looking at some of the other ones. Saw Winnipeg picked up a guy from Frontier League. Just looking to kind of see here. Yeah, actually, St. Paul signed Drew Stankiewicz. That was last week. Some of these guys, I don't know. I mentioned last week that Eric Stout got released by the Chicago Dogs. But yeah, to answer your question, David, I think you're going to see that, especially as we see some of these guys in the taxi squads, either because there's probably some guys out there thinking, you know what, my agent said that the White Sox will call me for a taxi squad opening should there be one. And now they're looking at August and they need to get something on tape. Maybe they got to they want to get some reps in. The status of winter ball is very much up in the air around the world. And at-bats, innings are at a premium. And do you shut yourself down or do you make a play? And I think, David, if you're an affiliated ball player and you've seen how the American Associations handle things, you say, you know what, why not? I mean, why not jump in there? Why not make a play for it? Because they have done I think a very good job I think, a phenomenal job of what they've been doing as far as, keeping players safe. They've had one, let this thing sink in, everybody. There's been one COVID out so far in the American Association. It happened weekend one. It was the first weekend on a Sunday. That's it. Now the big leagues, one team's healthy, now another one's down. It's a constant spinning cycle here of who can play, who can't play. But the American Association, and a big tip of the cap to what the league members, the owners, Josh Ashab, Josh Buchholz, those two guys, what they're able to pull off, and I still think it's an advantage. And I didn't believe this early. I didn't believe this was the case early on. I thought the big league baseball, the big major leagues would be the best place to kind of manufacture and get us through a season of big league ball without any trouble, or baseball without any trouble, maybe put it that way. But I was wrong. It looks like to me that the small bubble system, the smaller league, the smaller operation is going to be the easier one to manage a season of sports, whether it be baseball, hockey, tiddlywinks, or whatever, than a big, huge, large conglomeration. And I think the NFL is watching. I think what the NFL is seeing and what they're seeing from Major League Baseball, they've got to be watching it and going, okay, we already seen what's not working here. Now, granted, it's a different game and a different travel schedule. Baseball, you'll spend a road trip, you'll spend 4 days in a hotel. In the NFL, you go on a road trip, you spend really one night in a hotel, and it's basically it's a business trip, a one-day business trip. But I still think some lessons can be learned in how the auxiliary personnel. I think where the fans are, it's pretty clearly to me that the tea leaves are there'll be no fans at NFL games, and the way the colleges are going this morning, it looks like 15 to 25% capacity in most places. So you're seeing that, and I think that's probably going to be where. The long and the short of it is you're seeing the American Association is a good place to play ball, David, and that I think guys, because they're not, especially knowing that next year contraction is going to happen with Major League Baseball, the MILB, fewer opportunities, fewer jobs. You want a job next year, it might be important to get in any ball, get on tape, quote unquote, put some numbers up. And then I can make an argument for both and say, well, just shutting it down is the right thing too. But if you feel in your heart of hearts it's safe, I think the American Association only stands to benefit this year and going forward next year. I think next year the league will benefit as well because you're going to see for sure how fewer jobs and how the players talk. David, you know this. Being a scout yourself, those players talk. And they're going to say, you know what, that American Association experience was great. I feel pretty good about it instead of going to some whatever comes up. And again, assuming everything's all equal next year, we're all COVID free. But if not, I think it only benefits this club and things in general. I'd be surprised if we have any football. Brian, there's a movement afoot. I saw today University of Connecticut is not playing football next year. They banged it. They went independent, of course, and they've been scuffling. I have also noted I follow Texas Tech, and I know that my gamble to not buy season tickets until the dust cleared may have backfired because my idea was rather than buy the season tickets and not get the money back, which was what I feared, is that it's very possible the 22,000 tickets, the 22,000 folks who already have spoken for them, of the 22,000, 7,000 won't be able to get the game anyway. That doesn't count the students. So it's possible. I could very well see, you're right on there. I'm going to see Mitchell out there as well. But Brian, I could see where it's possible it doesn't happen. But I think the NFL is the one that we're all rehinges on. Colleges seem to be a little bit all over the place. They're going to try. They're going to try. Although, being in a big college football stadium with 15,000 people, you got plenty of room to stretch out. I've seen some second halves of Texas Tech games where there ain't nobody around because the team's getting blown out, and you got plenty of social distancing going on. So all good. But good stuff from you guys. Appreciate it right there. Big thanks for everybody joining. I want to chime in. I'm still going to sit here for a moment. I'm happy to catch up with you guys and answer anything else. But I think that the roll of the dice the American Association did was, yes, it was a gamble. It could have been a total train wreck, and it wasn't. And oftentimes, and this is something we talk about when leaders and not just leaders, and I mean not just Joshua and Josh, but league leaders, league owners who said, okay, you know what? I mean, I'm St. Paul. I'm thinking, you know what? I'm going to play in a bubble and I'm going to lose money and I got to still pay my people. That's a leader who still said, you know what? We're going to go ahead and try it. We're going to look for the betterment of the game and betterment of our brand, and we're going to fight through it. And they went and played in the bubble, and I tipped my cap to the St. Paul Saints. Winnipeg Goldeyes, I tipped my cap to them. I mean, they crossed the border, not going to play at home at all. At least St. Paul's gone back home. Chicago, Milwaukee are getting some. Now, granted, if you've seen the shots of the crowd, St. Paul's not banking it in, and I don't expect them to. It's not their fault. Chicago, same thing. Milwaukee, same thing. But they're putting a product on. They're putting a show on. I watched the Milwaukee show and the Chicago show. Both great shows. They're entertaining broadcasts. They're between innings are great. The entertainment. St. Paul's, of course, we know what St. Paul does. So those teams are doing that at home, getting a real good vibe. It takes courage to do that, and that's leadership. And again, what Josh Buckholz and Joshua Schaub, what they've done as leaders in the league, and those, and I also include our own ownership. What Mark Brandmeier did and what he's done in saying, you know what, we can't. But we're still going to fight through this thing. And this league itself has set a great example for players, fans, future owners, future business, future commerce, you name it. For all that, because of what the association has done to fight through this whole thing and pull it off. And I'm amazed. And I talked about this last week on my show in Australia. I told the viewers over there that the one hope the Australian Baseball League has, if you haven't seen the news, Victoria, which is where Melbourne is, where the league champions are, is overrun. There's two teams in Victoria, Geelong and Melbourne. Victoria has got a huge the pandemic's just gone crazy there. Sydney's had an outburst. The borders are still closed in Western Australia. You can't even get into Western Australia. You can't drive there from the south. You can't get in and out. And there's some question marks that there's going to be winter ball there in Venezuela and Puerto Rico and you name it. There's question marks and the safety is concerned. But if you're a small league like the Australian Baseball League or a small segment like the American Association, you look what the American Association's done, you think, okay, we can do this with 6 teams. If you're the Mexican Pacific League, you can say, you know what, we can do it with 5 or 6 teams. But what Big League Baseball's done, they haven't been able to pull it off with all their teams. And that, to me, is the shocker of all, because there's no way in the world I thought Major League Baseball would not be able to pull this off and not somehow, some way be able to get some semblance of a season without having big gaps of games postponed. It ain't happening. It's not happening. Anyway, American Association decided to do something. Yes, I agree. And that's the thing. And Brian, you're right on there. And it's something, my friend Cam Vale, who's the head of the Baseball Australia and the Australian Baseball League, told me this the other day on the phone. We were having a chat, and he said, you got to have a plan. Now, and the league had a plan. I had a conversation going back, and I'll pull the curtain back. I don't mind telling you this. I had a conference call in March while I was on holiday in Belize with Josh Buckholz and a couple of the broadcasters, knowing full force that we might have some issues on our hands. And at that time, the league had a plan in place. Yes, the schedule was there to start in May 17th, 18th, 19th, wherever we were starting. But knowing that it was a chance we wouldn't play, there was plan B in place. And I knew then that they were already thinking about a July start or there was a June 15th plan. There was a July plan. And there was a bubble plan. There was an all-in plan. They had several plans on the table instead of this nonsense where they negotiated for 6 weeks and then decided, okay, we have a plan now. And that plan is all kind of by the seat of your pants. Granted, as we've learned, yes, things do change. The rules do change, and protocols change. We talked about that a couple weeks ago, where some of these guys, Christian Correa was mentioning how they found out some new rules here and there. Dylan Tice said they went to the ballpark one day. It was a little different the next day. There's some learning curves involved, but there's been a plan in place, and that's what you got to see. And I don't think Major League Baseball did that. They didn't do that at all. They had a plan, sort of thing that was going to. And again, remember the bubble plan was the original plan. Probably made more sense in hindsight. Granted, it was a lot to undertake to do it. A lot of hotels, buses, and a lot of guys opted out. But there's no perfect thing. In this whole pandemic world we're in now, everything you throw against the wall to see what sticks. I think one thing to watch too, Brian, about sports going forward, especially collegiately. Watch this. If colleges are allowed to have classes on campus, if they elect to bring classes on campus, with students on campus, with student athletes on campus, my guess is the college football season will be scattered at best. At best, you might get half a season in, and it might even be shut down. But if colleges go to on-campus or virtual only or a hybrid, if they're doing that, and I think most colleges are, and student athletes aren't required to go play, or aren't required to be in the general population, I think it bodes much better for sports going forward. I mean, we learned that lesson too from Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball, despite the fact that some teams, and I'll use the Rangers for example, Chris Woodard, their manager, said that we did a pretty good job. We thought we've ramped up our precautions even more. Not just what Major League Baseball has done. Doesn't mean they're not going to have an outbreak, but some of these teams kind of let business go as usual. And this is not a business as usual time. You and I cannot walk in to a restaurant and just be elbow to elbow to somebody anymore. I can't high five people anymore. I was playing golf the other day and we were still social distancing playing golf. You can't it's the way it is. It's a different world now. In this current stage, it's different. Travel's different. Everything we do is different. So, it's crazy that the association, and I believe, and believe me, people are going to look and see what the association did and go, you know what? That was the right thing. That was the right thing to do. And a big tip of the cap to the American Association for doing that. I just think it's great stuff. Last call here, guys. Last call on the show. Again, glad you guys are along. I didn't really pop up camera 2, did I? Let's pop up camera 2 here. Now, you guys like camera 2? Hello, everybody. Let's move camera 2 there just a little bit. See how I get camera 2? There we go. Got the lights there. So I'm looking at camera 1, and then it's like, I got to have a director tell me, okay, look at camera 2, knucklehead. But, it's really, I worry, the one thing I do worry about long-term, as far as this conversation is concerned, is the long-term financial viability of some of the smaller market baseball teams, not just the association, but in Australia, winter ball, and smaller market. A couple of these teams that aren't playing that weren't contracted, there's some MILB teams I worry about. I mean, you got to think of it from these terms. And I remember reading the articles in the Winnipeg paper weeks ago that, the Goldeyes didn't play at all for X amount of months. It was just going to be a financial ruin for them. And you think about it from a business standpoint. Just think of it from whatever business we're in, whatever it is you do for a living. You think of your revenue stream basically chopped down to trickles. And yeah, it's the restaurant business who was packed now to do delivery. We've seen so many people go out of business. I worry the long-term implication of sport in teams, and not just our league, but all over, because the devastating economic impact of just not being able to do what you do. Your business model is to do what you do. It's not set up to go long-term. You have an off season to bring more revenue in, to make more revenue during the season. You don't have an off season to not make revenue and a season to not make revenue. That's totally the flip of the coin. And that's where we're at. That's where it really scares me going forward as we go switch. How was that? Was that good? You guys like that? Let's try it again. Should try it again. Let's go. Camera 2. Camera 1. Camera 2. Camera 1. There we go. How about that, guys? Playing around with some bells. These are things you're going to see bells and whistles next year as we go forward as well. Some odds and ends. Anyway, glad you guys joined me today. Appreciate it. Again, don't forget that we've got tomorrow the T-Bone's Greatest Hits. That'll come your way. And we've also, of course, you can check out the cooking show. But tomorrow, I haven't even gotten that far to where we're going to be tomorrow as far as the broadcast. But on MixLR, and check that out as well. Tomorrow, social channels all open. Any breaking news, like a Roy Morales trade, you heard it from me first. Yes, you did. You heard that this weekend. It was out there for you right away. We were going to get that stuff out to you on my channels as well. And also, and by the way, just in case you don't know this, oftentimes player moves and things like that, I have a way of getting them on the T-Bones Twitter too. I don't know how that happens. Crazy me. All right, thanks for joining me. We said this every week. And I mean this. It's one of those deals where, you really show some love. Hug somebody you care for them. Show them some love. Virtual hugs. Have some empathy. Love one another. And it's like you keep talking about, when this thing's over, we all come out better. Brothers, sisters, fans, mates, husbands, wives, whatever we do. Just all come out better people. So we show some love, show some empathy as we go forward. Okay, all right, thanks for joining me today. Everybody, thanks for being part of this one. We'll see you guys next week on the Steakhouse right here on Facebook Live. Love y'all.